Right, so now we want to remove the back shield like we did on the back and paint it up, make sure it can't rust anymore. Now, because the drive shaft, without getting too involved, goes right through the bearing, it's a lot more difficult to remove, and we don't really want to disturb it like we did the back removing the hub. It's a little bit more involved. What we're going to do is do a modification like we did on the 45s, and you can check that video out, is that this shield goes all the way around, so technically it can't come off without all the hub being removed, which in the future is a problem, because if you ever need to change it or it rusts away, you've then got to remove it all just for the shield. So what we do is basically we cut this little bit out, and that allows you to move it off over the hub. We can then paint it, put it back on, and in the future you can then remove it a lot easier. And basically it's 3 little bolts like that one there that holds it. There's another one just round there, and one there you can see there. So we're going to give that a go first, because we prefer to do it like that. So what we do is loosen those bolts off, hope they're not too rusted in, and then we'll slide it round, check it can move, and then cut that section out. Right, so 2 of the bolts come out quite easily. This top one didn't, but what we had to do in the end was cut a little slot in it, because it was just so rusty the spanner or socket wouldn't fit on it. And we also used a little bit of heat, and that and some penetrating fluid has got that bolt out. We were planning to replace these anyway, because it's always risky putting them back, because they're even more unlikely to not come off next time. So yeah, I just thought I'd cover that. What we'll do now is check that this back plate can sort of move around and isn't too rusted on, which looks like it is going to move around, and then we can look at cutting that slot out to get it off.
Hold that, Daniel.
Right, so we've now got it loose, as you can see. That will then allow us to cut that section out and slide it over, because as it slips down you've then got a thinner hole technically for it to go over. Right, so as you can see, what we've done now is cut that little bit out, and that will now just allow us to pull it off. And yeah, there it is, away and off, and now we can get it all painted and cleaned up without having to take all the bearing and hub away. And in the future, if we need to remove it again, that modification is done. As I said, it's worked successfully for us on the 45s, and hopefully it'll be the same with this. Right, so now we've got all those bits cleaned up under a wire brush. What we're doing is painting the back shields and the carrier with the metal paint that acts as like an undercoat, and we find, as we said, like the rust killer, that the heat proof paint certainly goes on a lot better when you treat them with some kind of rust killer or rust paint, or this hammerite paint here we're using, just to give them a coat and stop that rust from coming back through quite so quick. And we think it's definitely important to protect these shields, because we know, especially on the 45s, they go rusty very quick, and they're not that easy to get, and when you do get them, they're pretty expensive. So being these are in fairly good condition, we certainly want to protect them as long as we can. And then, as I think we showed you before, what we do is once they're dry, they then go in their own boxes. So we've got one box for the right side and one box for the left side. Right, so we've got all our back plates and carriers painted in the hammerite rust paint, and of course we've got all our nuts and bolts clean for each side in our trays. So now we're going to put on the back plate, the shield, and of course that's held in with 3 little kind of bolts. And what we've done is, because the others were quite rusty, we're changing them for a little bolt with an Allen key head in, and hopefully that'll make it easier next time we come to remove it. And I think even if you get the bolts out okay, it's well worth changing them, because the heads often do rust away on those or get weak, so when you next come to do it they may fail. We had one that had more or less failed. We did manage to get it out, but it was difficult, so well worth changing. In our case we needed to because they were beginning to rust. Of course we've got a little modification. We've cut the slot out, and that way that lets them go on a little bit easier. Well, it lets us get them on and off, because you couldn't get them on and off without that slot, in fact. Right, so we're just going to put those 3 little bolts in top, right round the middle and the bottom. So we'll get on with that, and then that shield will be nice and fitted. Right, so that's the back shield on.